So I thought, since we had a nice lunch, and after lunch we're we can get really sleepy, I thought it would be the perfect time to do a class on boredom. And if you guys fall asleep, I'll just say, hey, it's a compliment to the lesson, right? So I have thought this through. Okay, so first of all, let's look at what boredom is or what it's like. First of all, is boredom comfortable?
Yes.
No.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. Yeah, you could have a mixed opinion about boredom, right? I mean, you could maybe like it for lethargic reasons, or you may not like it at all because you've got a lot of energy or you're very hyper, right? But the bottom line is, guess what? God designed your brain to use. Okay? So, boredom is like hunger. Okay, is hunger comfortable?
No.
Or don't you kind of enjoy being hungry? Because when you're hungry, you know, right? You know what to do. You know to go to food to get nourishment, right? Boredom is kind of like the same thing. Boredom is sort of God's design to get us moving. Okay? To get us moving. So here we go. Here we have our brain again. Usually when we're bored, our reward center is kind of in a shutdown, kind of slow mode. And generally boredom is when your brain is kind of saying, hey, we need some activity. We need something. We need to do something. Okay? Now to me this really fits in well with what God designed us to be, right? He wanted us to go out into His creation and discover and find all these things that He's done, right? Well, boredom is kind of how God helped us to constantly be doing that. Right? To always resolve that or solve that. Now, when your brain is actually bored, it's interesting. Now, it may feel more painful than this, but apparently your brain activity is only going down about 5%. Okay? I know. Sometimes if the lesson's really bad, it feels like it's lower than that, but whatever. Now brain activity goes down. Okay, so your brain activity goes down. All right? But what they've learned is that even though the overall activity level of the brain goes down 5%, there are certain areas of your brain that actually are activated when you are in a bored state. And this is where this comes into play. When you are in a bored state, your autobiographical memory starts to pick up. Thoughts and feelings about other people. Okay, you start wandering through maybe your social network, and you'll start thinking about people you haven't talked to in a long time. Like, if you notice that when you're bored, your mind kind of wanders. Well, your brain is wondering, what am I going to do to get out of this boring situation? Right? So it's interesting. Your thoughts actually do something when you're in a bored state. And then finally, imagining. Our imagination actually goes up when you are in a bored state, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
When you're in that classroom and that one kid is really bored, what do you see him doing? He's looking out that window, imagining anything better than being in this room, right? That's kind of reality, right? So it's interesting. These qualities actually go up. Now, here's the thing. If you've noticed, our society, and I would say our society globally, is becoming a hyper-stimulated society, right? And that's why I think our relationship to boredom is actually changing generation to generation. And believe me, we had the same problem 100 years ago. You know, when radios came into play, everyone thought the world was going to end. Like, oh my gosh, there's these devices, and people can just plug them into their house. They're going to be listening to music all the time. Proper people should go to concerts and listen to... I mean, we've been doing this kind of technology development thing for a long, long time. The question is it all good for our brains to be hyper-stimulated? So think about this. If you are in the land of boredom intolerance, which is, I think, kind of the area that we're moving into, think about all these parts of your brain that are not going to be as active. You're going to be thinking less about kind of your own identity, who you are, where you're coming from, where you're going, thoughts and feelings of others. By the way, all this media, is it making us better connected to other people or less connected to other people? Well, there's an argument both ways, right? I just talked yesterday to Andrew, who's going to Novosibirsk this summer for a youth corps thing, right? He's been fasting from Facebook for a year and a half because he just said, hey, it's too much activity, it's too much information. But I'm going to be going on this trip, and so to stay connected with people while I'm on this trip, I'm going to do Facebook on them. So again, that's very good because it's intentional as opposed to just something habitual. Things that become habitual, we tend to not put as much careful thought into it. And then we may not be getting real benefits from it, or we may not be really fulfilling our purpose with those things. And then even our imagination. I mean, here's the thing. All this exposure and all this hyperstimulation with media and stuff like that, it could be hindering our ability to have our own imagination. Why do I need to imagine things? I can pay $5 and watch what Steven Spielberg thinks about a story or about a project or something like that. So in other words, I think we have to be very careful about what society is telling us about boredom. Society, I think, says do not tolerate it at all. And I'm thinking, maybe not. Maybe not. Okay. So here's a really good scripture. Whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through Him. So let me ask this. How would this verse influence boredom? This is a question for anybody.
I had a session on the bus yesterday. It was going to take half an hour. I was going to be bored. I thought, okay, let's pray. And something just cropped into my mind, and I had a prayer about it. And then something subsequently cropped into my mind about my quiet time in the morning, and that sort of stimulated me further. And I thought, wow, what an eventful for a half an hour trip.
There you go. See, again, even being able to recognize things that you anticipate that are going to be boring. Like you talked about this class or this thing you get to learn. So even anticipating boredom can actually help your prefrontal cortex turn on and strategize a little bit with that. Like, you know what, maybe I need to pray. And by the way, when we pray, our prefrontal cortex actually is activated. So that's really interesting that you end up coming with ideas and strategies for making connections. And so thinking how to apply my faith to just about anything that I do in my life, right? Whether it's learning something or a difficult thing during your workday or something like that, or a relationship issue. Whatever you do, and again, reading the Bible slowly is really helpful, because apparently, to me, this really says that God has an answer to anything that might be boring. If I can think about it in a spiritual way, or consider God's purpose in that activity. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, what is it called? Brother Lawrence wrote it. Practicing the Presence of God, I think is what it was called. But he was a monk from many centuries ago, but he just learned how to enjoy subtle things. He was basically a dish cleaner at a monastery. And he just learned that, you know what, when I do dishes, when I wash dishes, I do this in a way thinking about God the whole time. Like everything, every aspect of it. The water, where it comes from, the cleanliness, and the ability to touch things and feeling things. I mean, everything he thought about, he saturated with thoughts of how is God involved in this very simple task that I'm involved in. Pretty interesting. Okay. Now, this is where I get into some things I think that Jesus taught us. Now, you guys know Matthew 6 probably pretty well, right? Remember what Jesus is teaching in this area, in this section? Tells us, do not worry, okay? But then what is his answer to worry? He says, do very boring things like looking at birds.
Bird watching.
Bird watching. We laugh. But think about that. See, I think Jesus was trying to help us actually develop a way of countering worry. When you worry, your brain is working harder. It's producing the neurotransmitter cortisol in your head, which is a stress hormone. So worry actually goes throughout your whole brain, affects how you feel. It affects everything. But Jesus says, no, do something very different than that. Look at the birds. I honestly am taking him very serious on this. And so things like mindfulness and like really focusing on very simple yet beautiful things, I believe is how God takes care of us. You know? But when you don't do those things, you know, we may be paying a price. Because guess what? The world around you is telling you how fast you need to be, how stimulated you need to be, how much TV you should watch, how many websites you should visit today. I mean, do you feel that pressure? It's there. That pressure is real. And then yet, here we got another one. Look at the flowers of the field. Look at how they grow. Have you ever watched a flower and how it grows? I double dare you to try this.
Yeah,
think about it.
When you get that speeded up.
Oh, see? Let's see, Tom, you want to speed it up, man. See? But isn't that amazing? I mean, that's where we've got to find God in those things. God is not just always in stimulation. God is in things that are very peaceful, very calming, and connecting to things like that are very, very helpful. Okay. But boredom is boredom, hunger is hunger, which means we need to do something with it. Now, I believe developing skills that can stretch your ability to be in a quote-unquote boring state for a longer amount of time, I think is very, very healthy. We call that meditation. Like I said, I work in a drug addiction clinic, and every group I do, we open up with deep breathing, guided imagery, which I also do in my prayer life. I just imagine things sometimes in my prayer. I don't just use words for prayer, but I imagine things. I imagine the people that I'm praying about. I imagine the things that I'm praying for. Right? I'm imagining how God would answer this request. Okay? So imagining is very, very important. And it's a very important part of our brain that we use. But I have some boredom homework for us to do. Now, I came up with 3.5 pounds because it was the closest thing to $5. I just translated. I hope that doesn't make whatever. There's probably some magic number that you guys would think of. But can you guys work on, just take a couple of minutes, jot down some things that would be healthy answers to boredom that would cost less than 3.5 pounds. Okay? Now, we're all going to help one another, so make sure you write down some answers right now, and then we're going to share them. And obviously, included in 3.5 pounds or less is free. There are free things that you can do that can solve the problem, that can solve boredom. Did you know that? Okay, are you guys bored yet?
What is this like? Every time to stand and say,
Right.
What was it?
I love it.
wow, long time.
Okay. All right, so let's take a break and let's help each other here. I'd love to hear some options. What'd you come up with?
Read the Bible.
You're kidding me. Read the Bible, people. We got some spiritual people in the room. I love it. Okay. Reading the Bible.
Walk.
The Zumba class.
Zumba! I love it. By the way, my family just joined a gym about a month ago. And my daughter and I were, looking at all the classes that they offer because we want to get our money's worth, right? And she's like, "Oh, Dad, let's do this Zumba thing." I have no idea what Zumba is. And then I walk into this room and I'm like the only man with these 40 women that are older and better shape than I'm in. They're like moving up and down. It was crazy. I wanted to go right and read my Bible after that. Sudoku, baby.
Phone somebody that you wouldn't normally phone for those unexpected conversations.
Think about that. See, boredom is actually something that helps you think about, like, maybe there's someone I can reach out to. One thing I love is love text bombing my friends. And when I'm a little bored, I just think of something encouraging I want to say to some random brother who would never expect me to send them something, thoughtful or encouraging during the week. And guess how much that cost? Nothing. Nothing. But guess who wins though? Both people, right? That's the beautiful thing about how God's made it, is that when I sit there and work on that idea and text it to my friend, my brain is thanking David for doing that. Again, this is why God said things like encourage one another, because it will really help you if you encourage one another. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting. Yes.
I'm similar thing, writing cards to friends. That's it.
Writing cards.
Writing cards and sending cards to people that I haven't contacted in a while.
There you go.
I'm just thinking about them and sending a card.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, there's something about written cards too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just lazy, so I text them, but every once in a while writing it out and giving it to them. One girl, she came up with this idea for a sermon series that we just finished. She came up with this random idea like a year and a half ago, but I remembered that she had that suggestion, and so I wrote her that card, and man, next time I saw her, I was like Jesus. I mean, I was like the best guy in the world, you know what I mean? But again, it's doing those little subtle things that mean a lot. You never know how much it will mean on the other end, Yes?
Yeah, I was going to say singing.
Come on, bro! Singing! That's awesome. By yourself or with your wife? Or wow, she shook her head a little too fast. All right. I'm going to suggest them singing together. But anyway, okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. Singing. Yes, Scott.
Drawing.
Hey, look around, people. Yeah, drawing. Oh, by the way, do you have to be good at drawing to get a benefit from drawing?
No.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. Awesome. Yes.
I like hobbies like stamps.
Collecting things?
Yeah, collecting things, and I like antiques and stuff. My wife doesn't.
We know, bro. We can tell.
Good and still in boredom.
Yeah.
You could go to Aldi, you could buy some mince and some spaghetti and just invite somebody back or something.
So just cook a quick, easy meal and invite somebody over. Yeah.
I have a gratitude book, and when I get bored sometimes, I like to update it as well.
Wow. Very, very cool idea. And you will review that every once in a while,
Yeah.
and you'll remember things that you can't. Wow, I was thankful for that 4 months ago. Incredible. Yeah.
Just go for a walk and look at the birds.
Hey, that girl listens to Jesus. I love it. But seriously, just getting out, right? That's the other thing that's so sad about a lot of our media. Our media makes it so convenient to stay in a closed box for a long, long time, which probably isn't really healthy for us. So that's beautiful. Yes?
Tidying up.
What?
Just tidying or cleaning.
Ah. Now here's the thing. I'm not against the idea. But, there's this whole new industry that is just booming in the United States. In fact, some say that it's actually surpassing Hollywood right now. But the gaming industry. I mean, you can criticize it all you want, but these people are smart. And they have figured out how to use, they understand the brain really well. And they understand that to keep people engaged, you need to have them do simple tasks that become harder, but you give them rewards after every task. Okay? So, here's the thing.
Sounds like a
Things in your life that you typically think of as boring, like tidying your house, you need to apply game theory to that. Okay? Now, I'll give you the example. I just did this about a month ago. I decided to do this really fun thing called pulling weeds. Have you ever done this? It's a free app that God gave us. Okay? And you can just go into your garden and you can look for weeds. Okay? It's amazing. It was free too. So, as I was doing it, I realized, you know what, now if I just do this, I'm going to get bored in about 2 minutes, and I'm going to be done, and let's just hire a gardener guy, and But I started realizing, I kept thinking about this gaming thing, and I realized, you know what, I'm just going to imagine in my mind that, a small weed is like 5 points. That one's 15 points. And I just kept thinking about, I was making it all up in my head, but I was giving myself this kind of reward for getting this work done, and then guess what? When I was all done, I looked over at this pile of points. It was so cool, man. But I was out there for an hour. It felt like 5 minutes. Because you can take anything, and if you do it with the Lord, it can actually be amazing. But you have to think. You have to use the mind that God gave you. Okay. A couple more thoughts. You're so, come on, be proud, girl. Reading. Reading is awesome. Does anyone like learning things?
Yeah.
That's what I've learned about. And also audiobooks.
Yeah.
Where I live, we deal with a lot of traffic. Traffic is very boring. So I decided I want to do something that is beneficial to my faith or beneficial to me personally when I'm using all this time in traffic. So I got to audiobooks. Suddenly I'm learning things about the Bible, or I'm learning things about my field that I'm doing in normally excruciatingly boring circumstances. You see? So boredom is a gift. It's just a little hint that God says, you know what, we can do something valuable with this time. Okay? All right, last one. What are the potential benefits of boredom tolerance in your life? And of course, we probably should change that. It's not necessarily boredom. It's a different thing now, right? I call it peace. I call it being reflective, being thoughtful, right? But learning how to enjoy that and take advantage of that is a really beautiful thing.
Because we're so busy, to just take advantage of it all the time. It's been brilliant.
Yeah. And without boredom, we end up, our lifestyles don't only get busier, correct? So again, I think in some ways it's kind of like God pushing the brake, pushing the pause button. Let's think about things a little differently. Yeah, Scott.
I think, especially as Christians, we've always got a lot of stuff on. That at times you miss opportunities to catch up with people as well.
Right.
Whereas if you don't jam-pack your schedule as much,
Right.
you can go and hang out with your neighbour. Yeah.
Dude, think about that. Wow. Actually, I was sharing this with Andy and Tammy. Our staff right now is talking about, I mean, we try to borrow a lot of ideas from different sources, but how can technology actually help us in our mission? So, for example, right now, if you study the Bible with someone, that could be anywhere from 10, maybe 30 hours of time with someone that you've got to spread out over who knows how many weeks, right, as you work through things. But now we're evaluating that. We're thinking, you know what, maybe there's certain studies that we can now do on video, right, so that in between the times that we get together, maybe there's certain things that they could study on their own, so they're kind of studying the Bible on their own time, at their own convenience, and then when we get together next time, we're just reviewing something that they just went over, right? So in other words, how to use time and technology to help us with the most important thing we have, right? So, it's just fascinating. We have so many blessings in all these things, so it's really, really cool.
Sorry.
Yes?
I think we're looking at boredom in the sense of I'm bored. What of the sort where you're boring someone else and maybe you're in a conversation and they switch off, or I teach my students, I know when they're drifting and we have mechanisms to switch it out around and see when there is an interaction.
Right.
But if you're talking to a brother or a sister and their minds, you can tell they're not really listening. How do you what's the solution to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, just tell me if I'm boring you. First of all, I find that question very, there's some humility in that, right? I mean, to me, even paying attention to that, like noticing if someone is bored. Now, first of all, see, boredom has such a bad reputation, right? If someone rose their hand right now and said, "Excuse me, I'm bored," we would all be shocked, right? And I would say, "They're crazy. They can't be." No, just kidding. But the point is, boredom is like, it's socially inappropriate. You're not supposed to talk about it, right? You just kind of check out and look around or whatever. But I'm saying, to her question though, that's very interesting. If I noticed someone bored, what's one of the 3 P's that I can go to? Personal. I'm boring, right? Or I could go against them, right? I could go pervasive on them. Well, they are just rude and horrible people to not find me interesting, right? But here's the thing. What if we took it, instead of taking it personal, what if we reacted maybe responsibly or creatively, right? Because honestly, sometimes people get bored because maybe we're not talking about, the thing that's most helpful for you right now. So here's the thing. Here's one of my mottos in life. Okay, this is one of my core beliefs. Always choose curiosity over suspicion. Okay? So if someone seems bored in my conversation, I can go to suspicion and generate a lot of negative thoughts. Or I can go to curiosity and maybe get some amazing opportunities. Right? Like, hey bro, am I boring? Or is this not something that you're really interested in? Or is there something else you want to talk about? I mean, you can have that servant attitude, right? Even in a conversation with somebody. And believe me, I think conversations they're a lost art form. Learning the ability to have good conversations with each other. I hope that's something we all value and develop, even in our Bible talks. Have you ever been in those Bible talks where you all kind of give the standard answers? People talk about all the theories in the world. They never talk about themselves. We had the rule in our Bible talk, the I, me, and my rule. So whenever you ask a question in a Bible talk, you can never talk about those people or they or we. You had to talk from an I, me or my perspective. Guess what? Those Bible talks never got boring. Because now people were talking about real things, not just these abstract things. Yeah, people just cuss all the time. Hey bro, could you say that again and I me in my statement? I sometimes think about cussing. Oh, man, that's now we're talking. Let's get real here, please. Anyway, someone else had their hand. Yes.
I think the positive on that, I can find that I can have where we can have busy weeks that people, especially many, might find it strange that I can actually, the days I'm off, don't move out the house. Perhaps don't speak to anybody. Because I find that time is a self-reflective time. The boredom is to reevaluate me. Have I done things wrong this week about the following? So I can actually go in the garden, do something in the garden, stand up, but not actually physically go on the street outside the house for so many days.
Right.
But then when I do go full on there, those sort of days, I love those days just looking out the window, absolutely nothing.
Right.
But it seems boring. You can't understand sometimes, how can you do that? But I'm at home doing that because it's kind of a self-reflective,
Right.
looking at me and how I'm doing stuff, whatever.
Right.
So there's a positive cost of living.
Well, you're answering the second question here. What are the potential benefits of boredom tolerance? See, to me, there's such thing as healthy, intentional boredom. But you and I know it's not. I'm not sitting there bored. I'm sitting there making very careful, intentional thoughts and reflections about my life, about things that are going on. Are there things I'm not paying attention to? And just reflecting. I mean, maybe that's another good word for it. I'm just taking time to reflect. You know?
Yeah, I sort of feel like boredom maybe isn't like the word to use, right? Like, because I feel like even if this wasn't the original definition, the definition now is a painful lack of stimulation. Like it's just frustrating.
Right.
And sometimes you're in a situation where you can't stimulate, or the stimulation there isn't stimulating. Like,
right.
But it's still there, right? Like,
yeah.
And you can't escape it. But I feel like maybe there's situations where you're at peace, or you could be at peace, but you're bored. And it's learning to be at peace instead of bored. But I feel like they're two different things. Like, I think being at peace is still a very low level of stimulation, but it's not painful. It's not boring. It's building. It's refreshing. Yeah. Whereas boredom is like painful. It's like, I feel like they're two different things.
And that is exactly kind of where this is going. I think what I'm really trying to get to is peace. And it's so funny. I mean, I don't think I understood this until 3 years ago. I don't think I ever valued peace. I value effectiveness. I value productivity. I value studying the Bible with people, changing their lives. I believe in all those things. But one thing I didn't fully embrace until I went through a horrible thing in my life where peace was like my goal to get to somehow today. And boy, when I had to work really hard to get to peace, suddenly I valued it. Can I share one verse with you guys? I just noticed this week. In Isaiah 53, on this topic. I never ever noticed this before, but in Isaiah 53, in verse 5. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. See, when I read that, I got so convicted. Like, I take peace either incredibly for granted, or I don't value it at all, where I actually pursue it and cherish it throughout my day. I mean, Jesus paid a remarkable price for our peace. That's amazing. That's how important your peace is to God. He wants you to have it. But we live in a society today where peace or boredom is unacceptable. We need to be busy. We need to be stimulated, right? And that's all I'm trying to do, I think, with this class, is just really change our perspective and realize, wait a minute, things that give us peace are really, really important and really, really valuable. Okay. Any other questions about this subject or ideas? Guys, we survived the boredom class. This is great. Okay? So let's take 5 minutes of stimulation. 5 minutes of a break. And we will finish with our last class for the day.